Hello, 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 and welcome to Survivor Debrief. My name's Eden Porter, the unlucky loser from Survivor Titans versus Rebels, and with me, as always, is my grand final comedic partner and real-life brother, Josh Porter. Josh, how are you going tonight?
Is it the grand or is it the finale? I like
the finale. The grand. Well, it's AFL season, so there's grand finals
true,
in the air. It's the Father's Day special. We're coming at you live for a Father's Day special. Yes, Josh, that's it. That's all she wrote. Australian
We're all
Survivor.
Finished. What a great season it's been.
Yeah.
And what a fantastic winner I think we had as well.
It's been a wild ride. And at the start of the show, I do just want to take a moment. People may forget this, but this was officially the last episode that we'll be seeing JLP host Survivor.
It's true. It's true.
You sort of forget that. You sort of forget.
Well, because that wasn't known when they would have been filming it, right? So you don't have that reverence for it. And it's kind of, just popped off and see you later.
Honestly, when it finished and the logos came up at the very end, it was just over. I was just like, oh, that's JLP gone.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no. Oh.
Yeah, it's so weird. It seems like anyway, we don't want to get too much into
let's not get bogged down in the downerness of it. This is an exciting time. It was a fantastic season. So let's just pick things up. Let's just go break down the episode. Let's debrief it, if you will, Josh.
Yes, good.
So let's just start it off at the top. I think at the top of the show, we sort of check back in with our final four. So Parv is really obsessed with this concept of rewriting history with Sari. She wants to get to the end with Sari.
Yeah.
She still brings up again how she feels that heroes versus villains. She had a bitter jury, so she lost, which ergo may reflect. Does that also mean Russell had a bitter jury for Samoa and that's why Russell lost? Who knows?
Well, there was a lot of talk about bitter jury, but it didn't really. I thought that was like foreshadowing something more than it did, really. Like,
no, I think it's just like Heroes versus Villains was in Samoa. She got to the end. Yeah. She didn't win it, and this is her sort of comeback journey for that. But then Sari just seems like she's just happy to still be there at the end with Parv. She's never targeted Parv this whole game, and you can sort of see now with what we know is there's a reason why Sari didn't get this huge edit. Like,
yeah. She was very understated like the whole season, I felt.
She's very understated. She had a couple of good moves and she had built some good relationships. Because I think she built the Lisa relationship. She built the Janine relationship as well. Mm-hmm. So she could have talked to a few things there, but ultimately she didn't get that big like winners edit, if you will.
No.
Janine. We'll get to Janine's moves, but at this point in the
Janine's
game,
recap was Luke or no Luke. That was her big sort of the takeaway from her sort of pre-episode thing.
It was Luke. Yeah, it's like, what's she going to do? And that pretty much boiled down her whole game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then we have Luke's really interesting one where they've sort of setting him up as like the big boss, and we know why now because they're building him up for the final Tribal Council to be the threat that you need to overcome. He talks about rewriting history for himself from back coming forth, which is interesting. But I do feel like they've only been in Samoa for 16 days.
Yeah.
Like they are talking about it like it's been this huge sort of thing. So just for context, in Titans versus Rebels, day 16, Viola got voted out.
Wow.
She was the 6th person to get voted out.
Yeah, wow.
And they've already done this whole season, which is so funny when you think about it like that.
So different.
Yeah. So look, we've set up the final players and let's just get straight into the challenge, shall we? So the challenge is the classic torture device.
Classic.
Australia loves a good torture device, Josh. And the only thing that this was missing was JLP to be pulling some sort of lever to make it harder.
Yes, that's true.
We needed him.
Where was his engagement with it?
Yeah, we needed some sort of thing from JLP.
With the big black hood on as well.
Yeah. So this, by the way, like set design, epic.
Oh, it looks sick.
Like it looks sick. Cool. And they've really, just as the season gone on, they've really gone to this goat motif, not the traditional Survivor goat, but the greatest of all time goat. It's been everywhere, and it looked very impressive. Like it. One
question I have for you generally about these sort of torturous standing on a peg things. Do you think, like, overall, do you think this is a good way to determine the final three? Because to me, it feels, I don't know what I want, but this feels too specific and like too hardcore, and it feels like it favors light people. Generally.
Okay, so a couple of things. So one is, once you introduce 20% of your body weight into it, I think that's really hard because like a lot of guys are a bit bigger, but they say that they're also stronger. which is okay, that's fine. But then a lighter, fitter girl is always going to be better at these sort of challenges. And then it comes down to peg size. Yes, I'm talking about peg size. Because
I was going to say, should if you're going 20% of the body weight, should the peg be 20% of your foot size?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Take this foot-shaped thing out of my mouth. And that's what I'm talking about, because then you start getting like the ultimate in fairness. Because the question is, if you have small feet, it should be easier to stand on a smaller peg. Therefore, should you not then have the weight as a certain weight, and then everyone deals with? So a stronger guy is easier for the weight, but it's harder on their big feet. And a lighter girl, easier on their feet, harder with the weight. Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting question, right? Of you can't make any challenge particularly even because everyone's got different strengths, right?
Correct.
So can you design something in a way that is kind of, because I like this, to me, like, there's an element of how much do you want it, but I feel like that gets superseded by this. Like, I don't know, it seems too far in the physical body element to it.
Yeah, so basically the concept of this challenge starts off as hands on a hard idol. Everyone's got their hands on an idol, and you just stand there, and whoever wants it more gets it. And it goes for 8 hours, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
As a result of that, production, they don't want to stand there for 8 hours.
Which is fair. I concur.
Yeah, they don't want to do that. And plus a time in the show, in the world of the show, as you're watching it, the time breakdowns of like 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, it all happens in the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually matter too much to the audience.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
Anything over an hour is like, wow, this is going for ages.
Long. Yeah.
So between an hour and 8 hours, the audience reaction is still the same. So you sort of lose that. So they have to build in now like ways to make it more difficult. So it doesn't go for 8 hours.
You know what I think I would like?
What's that?
I think for the final one, I would like an intense concentration one.
Yeah.
I think I want one that you have to be switched on the whole time, and your loss of focus is what blows you out. I think that to me was probably what I favour.
Do you remember Thailand's final where they had
the coin? They kept the coins
in the lotus position that Brian won. That was pretty brutal. But yeah, that's where I think it's sort of at. I don't know, but there was one point in this as well where Luke fell backwards into it.
Yeah, and he was leaning on it.
And I was like, hang on, can you do that?
Yeah, because that was weird. I was like, is he out now? Surely he's out.
Because I thought I could imagine production yelling, Luke, get your back off that, mate. Like, Like, you can't do
just
it.
To keep it going, yeah.
You can't do it, man.
To be fair, he wasn't like resting. He kind of fell back and pushed himself straight back up.
But if you could do that, because there's another, I'm just going deep into the Survivor archives now, but going back to Guatemala with Danny, so her size was different, and the final challenge wasn't accumulated like a customized
adjusted
size.
For height, yeah.
So she could like lean back into it and keep herself up,
right? And
the other guys couldn't, and so she ultimately ended up winning that. So you've got to take some of those things into account. One little quote that I wanted to mention from JLP, he said at one point, he said, "Pav, ramrod straight." I don't know what that means. And I was like, that sounds... I thought it was some weird sexual thing that he was like, you know how he does?
Right? That's
no, ramrod straight means very stiff and straight, particularly referencing to a person's posture or to describe something that is perfectly straight and rigid.
I've never heard ramrod used in that way, but there we go. Accurate use by JLP.
Thank you very much, JLP.
The other thing, in these kind of challenges, do you have any hope, if you're a Luke, grimacing, shouting, screaming, yelling... Because isn't that other person just constantly like, he's about to fall? Yeah. He's about to fall.
It's people were talking about it like, oh, maybe it's a tactic to like really throw people off. I'm like, no. It's the wrong tactic because you are making them feel like they've nearly beaten you.
I just need to hang on a little bit longer. And I just need to hang on a little
bit longer. You want to be cool. You want to be ramrod straight, Josh, with no emotion at all. And basically...
Because more often than not, that other person looks to you and goes, God, I'm stuffed. Yeah. They're looking so good at this right 100%.
Now. And so this challenge seemed tailor-made for Pav to just dominate.
Yeah, like, it was good. She looked perfect. Rock solid the whole time.
She looked rock solid. She was never... and she said it herself. She was like, I was not losing this challenge. This is my challenge. Yeah. And she wins, ultimately. Yeah. And she looked great doing it, might I say. Yeah. Then we get to a little scramble. There was only one thing to scramble. It was Sari and Pav saying to Janine, like, Luke's going to win. They were building Luke up. Luke's definitely going to win. So... like, don't worry about it.
It was interesting, like, Sari having the female pitch as well. being like, it's the only guy, and like they really seem to be laying everything on. The one thing that didn't come up is like the immunity wins for Luke, which I found surprising. That didn't come up like at all this episode.
Yeah, I think maybe ultimately people don't care about that stuff.
It's interesting because that normally plays such a big role in people's pitches and everything to be like, hey, and this element of the game as well I dominated in, you know, like.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's like we spoke about, that when you don't super need it, and you don't win it when you don't need it, then it's less important.
So I think there's a couple of pitches that you could do to Janine here. And obviously, some of them they didn't use, some of them they did. I thought one interesting one was like, be the only Aussie in the end. Be able to say that you were the last Aussie standing. Yeah, and then also put little seeds in to say, you Aussies might split the vote. Like, people might do you or Luke. Whereas if you come with us, you are the only Aussie option. Yeah, I think they didn't push that hard enough. I think the other option, and this is just from my perspective, I'm not sure whether you could sell it to someone, but Janine, you want Luke on the jury to vote for you.
I was going to say this, yeah. It's 100% like I think when you look at Sari and Parvati, you think the only thing they're going to do is kind of split votes between each other. Like, you know that Sari is definitely going to vote for Parvati. So I found that interesting that the sort of jury vote didn't come into it too much. The other thing I thought was interesting that probably could have come in is the idea of, could have been the pitch to Janine as well. Don't give Luke the opportunity and the value of winning his way with fire to get through, because that's 100%. Often seen as quite a positive as well.
Yeah, 100% is. 100%. You're giving him the ability to put one more thing on his resume.
Yeah, rather than taking that away from him and making a quote unquote big move for yourself. Right, like she obviously wanted to play the loyalty card, and that was her pitch, so it makes sense in the context of that. But would it have made a difference? I don't know.
Yeah. And look, we'll get to that a bit more in the final tribal council speeches. But ultimately, she decides, and this honestly shocked me.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised.
I was so surprised
because just thinking about it, I was like, I don't know. Can you take Luke through over? I think there were so many things that I think about that make sense to keep both Sari and Parvati and get rid of Luke.
I honestly, the biggest one in my mind for Janine is Luke does this big show about giving you his necklace and all this sort of stuff, and then you cut him the next episode. I think that is a boss move. I think people respect him. I think this jury respects that. I think people would love to see Janine go, yep, you know what? It's all about me now, and now I'm coming for you, and I'm making my way to the end. I'm deciding to do that.
And I think you can reasonably go, I got Luke that far, but then in the interest of my game, we split up, but we used each other to almost as far as we could go. But the best move for me at this point was to cut him loose rather than, putting fate in his own hands and handing that opportunity to someone else.
And so then we get to the fire. Now, this seems like, on paper, this seems like a walk in the park. This was one of the more intense fire.
Because we'd already this season had Sari lose a fire challenge. So you're kind of like, oh, she's stuffed.
But why does Sari not go and practice fire after she lost that one so badly? Do you think she did? She must have.
Surely, right?
She must have.
Like, you normally see these montages of people practicing though and stressing out about it.
Yeah.
So it's maybe the timeline's so condensed they don't have enough time.
But the other thing is, like, Sari knows how to make fire. I don't think the issue is like, oh, I need to practice to get my technique right. She's like, I know I have to do the magnesium. I know you have to do this. Yeah. I know you have to do that. Like, I know all the things. I'm just not that good at it.
Yeah.
But she was getting there. And when Luke crumbled, Luke started to panic. You could see it.
Totally.
When he's...
And you put that whole bundle on that was too tired. It was like...
And it just fell down. It collapsed and happened twice. I was just like, oh my God. And then I honestly thought, oh my God, Sari's going to win fire and win this whole game.
Yeah, it just felt to me that... Because it's difficult to get your stuff balanced and going high. I was like, it's just build a big fire at that point. Yeah. Because at least Luke still had a lot of wood at the bottom, whereas Cerise was still very light touch and just didn't really get there. But it did get there eventually, I guess, right?
Yes, she did. And look, and this goes to
that was a nice little moment.
That was a nice little moment. That was a lovely little moment because Cerise always has these little things. Like her first season in Panama, she was afraid of leaves in episode 1, and then by the end she was like dominating the game. Then then she did the balance beam in Game Changers. She couldn't do the balance beam, and she got there at the end.
Yeah.
And then it's all about the fire, and she couldn't do it, but she came back and she had a second chance.
Got there eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I actually really love Sari. And Sari has one more chance, by the way, to win because she's in 50.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
so she's got one more chance.
Surely, like, if you're anybody, like, you cannot let her get through.
No.
Like, there's no way you would let her get through.
No. Now, one thing, obviously Sari goes home here. Now, answer me this, Josh. If this was Janine's plan all along, right, why not go with Shani in the last vote? If you really, because I honestly thought she cut Shani because she wanted to cut Luke and go with the girls. If her plan was to go to the end with Luke, then you keep Shani, you vote off Sari, then you vote, hopefully you beat Parv and you vote off Parv and all three of you go.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's interesting. Why you wouldn't keep Shani? Unless she thinks that maybe she thought that Shani, like, they might team up to cut Janine. Surely Janine's not thinking of everyone left in that 5. She's on the chopping block. You wouldn't think that if you're Janine.
You wouldn't think that. You'd
think I've probably got a pretty good party. The one interesting thing that I did hear Janine say was, like, I think it's only fair that Luke has a chance to essentially fight for fire. Like, this idea again, I think it's only fair to give Luke this chance. Yeah, just strange to hear those kind of words in an all-star season and be focused on that, I think.
I just feel like Janine was an interesting one because I feel like for a returnee season for all these huge players, she had the wrong mindset. Like, she did some good moves, and I think
she played really well. That's the weird thing. It's like, I think her relationships with people and the things she got done, and, you know, like, it's all seemed very good, but then it sort of boiled down to this.
So let's get. So we're at Final Trouble Council now. The breakfast. Oh wow, the breakfast. Who cares about the breakfast? I don't care about the breakfast. Let's get to the pitches. So they give JLP for the last time gives everyone a chance to pitch. So Janine's.
Yes.
Now this baffled me that Janine would. First of all, she does a few things wrong. One is she says, I just want the title. I don't care about the money. People don't want to hear that. Just don't mention the money, Janine. We know you're really rich. Just don't mention it at all. Because people just even saying, like, I don't need the money, it's not about the money, it just leaves a bad taste in people's mouths that the money does matter to them.
Do you think, it's an interesting point because you think, like, logically you would think that's a good thing to say, like, no, I'm a purist. I'm just here for the title of Survivor. That's what I care about more than anything. Doesn't it come across as that a bit?
No, because what it comes across as is there are other people that money could change their life and you don't give a shit about that.
Like, but that's for Australia versus the world. I don't think the jury's.
I just think in general, if you're a rich person coming into that, if you say I don't need the money and you're with someone that does need the money, like Luke could really do with the money, like that would help his family.
You don't know his situation.
Well, I'm sure it would help. But I don't.
What are you saying about Luke?
Mate, I'm not getting.
He doesn't own a juice empire.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. He doesn't own Betty's Burgers. Luke's Tacos. He doesn't own that, okay? So I didn't like that. I know what she was trying to do, but I didn't like it. And this trust and loyalty, it's bad, Janine.
Well, it was just very funny. Just to go back to the breakfast briefly. Here's to friendship and loyalty. Cheers, everybody.
I could feel Parvati trying not to roll her eyes at that. Yeah. It's just like, no.
But she did. I think, Janine, she really did back herself in the pitch. I think to me, it was too general and vague and like, this is how I wanted to play. Whereas I think the others wove a much better story of their season. Yes. And I think those clear, it was less clear because she did speak, she spoke about a couple of the moves, but to me it didn't piece together, but maybe she did in live, but it didn't feel like she pieced together this nice narrative of this was my season. Hey guys, this is everything I did that you don't know about. What a great season I had.
Yeah, I think she hit on the Kirby vote, which was her biggest vote. I think the thing is she didn't really own it. Like she said that we did the Kirby vote and this Kirby thing, I knew I had to do this.
I think she didn't fully shy away from it, but yeah, she didn't emphatically state.
It wasn't like this was my move, and she didn't own the Sarah move either. She didn't own that I put this in motion. I mentioned it to Kirby. It pissed Kirby off. Sarah went home. This put me in a better position in the game. And then she didn't say, I knew that Kirby and Parv were getting close. I had to break that up. She didn't do it in that regard.
Correct.
Which I think you need to do. And this is so bad. I just want to talk to trust and loyalty for a second here. Because in her mind, right, she's I'm loyal and I'm trusting you. You can win this game being loyal and trustful. You are loyal and trustful to that particular person that you've made that connection with. But along the way, everyone else that thought you were working with them, that you lied to, in your own head, you're like, well, I knew I was lying to them. That was fine. They feel betrayed. They feel broken. Sarah felt betrayed by you because you said, yep, Aussie strong, this is going to... As a result, you can never... I'm sorry, in this game, you can never truly claim loyalty and truth and trust because you have to lie to people. And even if you try and own it like that,
the only way would be if you're on the wrong side of the vote all the time. And so you just had one person and no one ever went home. You didn't put a vote on anybody, which to me is not a winning strategy. So it's a good point, though. Yeah, you do betray everyone because
you do betray everyone, but in your mind, you're like, no, but I was loyal to Luke the whole time. I was loyal to Parvati. I was loyal to Serene. The other interesting thing is the only person that feels good about Janine being loyal to Luke in that final vote is Luke, and he is not voting for you at the end at this point.
Yeah.
So you do that to put him on the jury, and then he feels good about you. Everyone else feels terrible about that.
And we kind of exactly saw that with Serene Parvati. Obviously, Parvati didn't have to vote her out, but you did see that loyalty there stay really strong.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because Janine could have really owned the Luke vote. Like, if she did turn on Luke there, she could have completely owned that as like a huge move and basically tell the jury, Luke would have won. This would have been huge.
Yeah, and to come back to the idea of I think it's only fair to give Luke his chance himself, it's like you're handing power to someone else at that point. You're relinquishing the opportunity to do a move by handing it over to him to make that to help himself essentially.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure whether Janine was like, I want to desperately win this. I think it was like, I want to go to the end with Luke and then we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was just, a thing of, maybe she genuinely did think, trust and loyalty. Like, I'm going to stick loyal to this guy till the very end and that's my strat and I'm going to stick with it, you know?
Yeah. No, you go.
I was just going to say, because you talked about, that game plan and executing that style of game plan was what she wanted to do.
Yeah, but I do feel like, I know they talked about her being a keynote speaker and a little bit of that came through. And the thing about that, it sounds so fake and hollow and it doesn't sound emotional. And you can see the other guys got emotional and they connected, where she went, so as you can see, whether I'm planning something or taking it out, it's flawless. Like
next slide, please.
Sorry, it's not working. Where's all my Betty's Burger money? That's what it sounded like. Whereas Luke's in tears, Parv's having flashbacks. Like, that's the sort of stuff you need. Yeah. And so speaking of Parv, let's get to Parv's pitch. So she breaks in this 20-year journey.
Should we go to Luke's next? Because he was next.
Oh, do you want to do Luke's next? Okay. Yeah.
In the order.
Okay. Was Luke next? I thought Parv was next. Okay.
No, he was next.
Okay, you got it.
We finished on Parv.
He talks about his audition and he's like, I'm going to be the biggest person ever. I'm like, I really like that, going back to that first moment before he was ever connected to the game. I thought that was a really smart move. He sort of mentioned, like, he had moves and he did talk to them, which was good. And he was very specific in them. And he speaks to building with Janine and the relationship there and how he flipped his vote to Shonny in the George vote. And he said that locked in Janine with me.
Yeah. And I think it was good to call, calling out stuff like that to be like, that's something that I established with Janine and going like, I found my idol on day 3. What was interesting, I think it was earlier in the episode, he talked about mistakes being made and he mentioned not telling Janine about his idol was a mistake, which I found that interesting that in his recap of the way he played the season. But I think he hit on the right things. I think that narrative that he built felt a lot stronger than Janine's.
Yes, definitely.
And really he did a good job. What was interesting, and this came up a couple times, the spa, going away to the spa, and that being like a real focal point.
How did this... Okay, so that episode 7, when they iced them out, they didn't take any of them to the spa, which everyone was super pissed about, and then they iced them out for the whole day. No one spoke to them. It felt like that was such a momentous, like, had a momentous impact on the episode, like on the rest of the season. Everyone brought it up.
It's really interesting.
So the other things that he brings up, which is really interesting, is so he speaks to how he wanted to work with the world. And then they iced him out. So then he said, okay, I'm going to work with Parv and Serena. And that was his decision. And honestly, and he double downs on this later, this is not a good strat. And Parv realizes this, and you've got to make the jury feel good about themselves and about voting for you. I tell you what doesn't make people feel good, when you say to them, I wanted to work with you and you didn't do it. You did this thing wrong, and then that's why you're not here anymore, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, right.
I don't think the jury wants to hear that. I don't think any of the world wants to hear, I tried to work with you, it was your fault, you turned your back on me, and that's why I didn't work with you guys.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's how you speak to a jury, to make them feel good about that. That's just me. He spoke to the ripping up of the parchment, which I feel like he felt had more weight than it did.
I think, if he'd peppered it more with, I didn't even show her my idol. Like, it's interesting because you could kind of see it both ways, because the way he framed it was quite good of like, she had this thing and I worked out a way to get her to rip it up. Like, she had this advantage, she didn't use the advantage, and I orchestrated that. And then Parvati flipped it to be like the other way around of like, he gave me information and I had total control over his game, and I used that as a trust-building exercise.
And she did that a few times, and it was just so good.
So it's interesting that like Luke's pitching it in this way, and I think in the face of it, and we said this at the time, like, I cannot believe Luke went to her and told her this. It seemed crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think he quite nailed the logic behind it. I think if you hadn't told anyone about it, if you told, like, it just seemed odd, and I think it's good to mention it, because at the end of the day, this is the thing, you got her to rip up this thing and you didn't even have to show her your idol. Like, that's pretty crazy. But I don't think that sort of the pieces came together when you're sitting against Parvati at the end. I think maybe it works better if she's on the jury.
And I noticed people are afraid to snap back at Parv. Like, when she goes, well, actually, no, you told me something, I used it against you, and I had complete control of the game. And he's like, yeah, I did that to make you feel that way so you would rip it up. And as a result, I got what I wanted, and then I could have betrayed you if I wanted at that point, but I chose not to, and then flip it again. See, you could
we didn't really have
flip
that
the flip.
Yeah, I feel like in previous ones, like, people jump in to correct the record a bit, but we didn't really see that with this at all.
We didn't really see that. I did really like at the end, though, he did sort of speak from the heart, and he does sort of sum up what the ultimate Aussie Survivor player, sort of people, when they think about it, they probably think about someone like Luke. A pretty strong guy, does some crazy stuff, is in and about all the action. I think that's what people do think of when they think of Australian survivors. Like overseas. So it's interesting.
He's a bit of a larrikin.
Well,
he's
that's
a classic
right.
Aussie
classic
larrikin.
Aussie larrikin. So now we'll get to Parv. We'll get to Parv. So Parv did a 20-year journey. She spoke about how this is the culmination of, and you know what else she did really well was that she said, like, this is the best game I think I've played.
Yeah.
And she's building up this season because, again, the jury want to know that they're on a really good season, and that you, Parvati, had to play her best to beat you. Like, again, this is making the jury feel good about themselves.
Interesting framing, yeah.
Yeah. She talks about having the biggest target on her back. And one thing I really liked, now, usually this doesn't really work, but I think it works particularly in this point, is when you say, I've never had a vote cast against me this whole season.
Yeah.
I think people are like, okay, yeah, we liked you, you got here. Doesn't mean you played the best game. But I think couple that with the fact that she, like, is the biggest target.
Yeah.
And that she didn't get a vote as well is quite impressive.
I think it's kind of crazy in retrospect when you think about it. I think she did such a good job of speaking through all her moves and laying out clearly about her survivor senses. And this, I felt the mood was off here, so I thought I'll get this out. And the reveal of, I didn't read the third line that said, this must be cast before the thing.
When she actually revealed that,
it seemed like that was something that the jury didn't know. So like having something, a bit of information like that you can use that speaks to, I think is huge, of like, and here's this little extra bit, this little cherry on top to that moment that you were all there for. Yeah. I think as well, the whole thing of framing, like sitting next to Luke and being like, if he was a better Survivor player, he would have known sending me away at the auction, there was probably going to be something waiting for me. Like, really clever.
The fact that the way that she words that, it wasn't that like, hey, I was pissed at you for sending me to the auction. She used something that he did, that he thought he did good in the game, against him to make him look weaker. And she did that a few times. So she'd obviously ascertained that he was the big target to go after rather than Janine. And so she had all these little things in her back pocket where she would take things that he did, like the parchment, and then turn it around to be a move for her. The auction, he made a mistake there. He sent me, I got this thing. that really helped me. All these little things that he did, yeah.
And when you're trying to match the ledger as a jury member between those things, it's like you've got this person who's essentially outplayed one of the others, called it out twice in very specific ways. Like it's kind of, it makes that decision a bit easier, I think.
There's nothing worse than thinking that you've got something in your back pocket and dropping it, and then someone immediately coming back at you and going like, actually... Yeah. I'll stop you there because that was actually this way. And that just undercuts you completely. Like we've seen it happen again and again.
Yeah. I just do think generally Parvati's story of her season, I think she, like just reading through it again, you just feel like she had a lot of moves. She did a lot of things, a lot of big moments. And as she said on the right, I think that's one of the hardest things to get past. I was on the right side of the vote every time and I had 0 votes against me. Like those two things combined against people who didn't have those things, like this, I scraped from the bottom and I wasn't in it. It's like, it's so hard for me to look at someone who was on the bottom and came back through and did this versus someone's like, I was on the top the whole time and I didn't get any votes against me. Like, I don't know how you play Survivor better than that, to be on the right side every time and still get no votes. I think it's great.
It's pretty amazing. It's honestly pretty amazing. So let's get to the questions now, because this is when the power shifts, Josh, to the jury now. We all love the power shifting. So we start off with Lisa. Survivor makes her happy. Luke, what makes you happy about Survivor? And he, like catching crabs and being outside and stuff like that. It's not
the survival elements.
Yeah. It's not a good answer. It doesn't win anyone over. I'm assuming there was more other people answered it as well, and it just wasn't. It was just cut for time, but it didn't seem like there was much there. Sari wants to know, Parv, why did it mean so much?
Is this a setup for Parv? Is she giving her a softball for this?
This is a softball. This is a softball to show some emotion, to show some like, I just wanted you here. You're my ride or die. You're my Survivor soulmate. And it meant a lot to me to try and right the wrong from Micronesia, where it should have been a final 3 and you should have had a chance to pitch. So I think a bit of a softball. Keep cutting to Lisa's expression the whole time she's talking about Sari, which I think is so funny, like of the editors to do that. But again, pretty softball, giving Parv an opportunity to show some more emotion.
I did find it interesting between those two. It really did feel like this, both of them willing and ready to fight it out at the end, being like, that's what I want. Like, I'm not trying to secure this in a way that I want to be. I want to be with you specifically because we have this long history, and how cool would that be to share that?
Yeah, and it is weird, like whether or not they were just like, let's just go to the end, you and me, and whoever wins. Because I don't think, does Sari beat Parv? Like,
I think it's really tricky. Based on what we saw, you'd be hard pressed.
Yeah.
But I don't know how the individuals felt, because it seemed like Sari was that linkage across pulling stuff together a lot more than Parvati was, it felt.
Yeah, and it would just be, like, I would have liked to have seen an opportunity where Sari could vote off Parv and maybe make that move and go like, yep, I pulled the trigger when I did to try and win. And interesting. But another question. So Tommy drops it on Parv, just says, hey, it seemed like it was always the world or the girls, but it was never Tommy. And then once she realized what he was asking, I think she said, yeah, I can't be with everyone. And I thought that was such a good answer. That was literally like, I felt more affinity to Cass and Lisa and this and that. Yeah.
And as well, seeing that, Lisa and Cass getting too tight and all this, like there's all this stuff that it kind of makes sense. But I think it's a classic case of, at that point, you understand their point of view, and I think you just go with it. You don't try and because you see that happen, and we saw that a bit with Sarah's question with Janine. Like, you don't try and flip it too much. Like Tommy's like, "Are you ever going to play with me?" And just be like, it didn't really play out that way.
She was perfect. Her answer was perfect. And then Luke tried to get on the Tommy train, but was like, "Mate, I wanted to work with you." And then this is where it falls apart for Luke again, because he double downs in this. I wanted to work with you, Tommy, and you didn't. You turned your back on me. You iced me out. You did this, and I just felt like that was the point for me when I felt the jury sort of turned on Luke, or not turned on him, but I felt like it was.
It was close. This is where sort of the wheels were coming off.
The wheels were coming off from the edit. Yeah. The wheels were sort of coming off there, because I feel like that's not what you want to do to a jury.
Yeah.
So then we have Cass. Now, oh my God. This is my new favorite question.
It was a real good question.
It is so good. Which votes do you think you have and why?
Yeah.
This is so good, because basically it just it's just self-awareness. It's the ultimate self-awareness question, game awareness. Where do you think you are in the game? Who do you think you've got? What connections you made? And it just shows you, the jury, whether you actually understand what you're doing.
I think that's the beauty of it, that you're making them go, what do you think we think over here? Are you trying to make us feel better about ourselves? Are you blowing smoke? And how you answer it, I think you've got to be so careful in just really honestly playing it and being able to say, like, I don't think I've got this person because of this. I think if you give reasons for everything, if you explain your logic, that makes that a lot easier, I think, because you can just back up your thoughts. They might be wrong, but if you have a reasonable enough explanation, I think they'll accept it.
Yeah, I think, okay, people have asked similar questions to this in the past, but I think the phrasing of this one and how simple it is, I think really hits home. I think it's really good. What you don't want to do, you don't want to go through the jury and remind people why they don't like you as well. It's like, you don't want to go, I definitely don't have Sarah because on this episode I did this to her and this. You just want to focus on who you think you've got. And what connections you have. And I think that shows a level of awareness there. And I really love that. I tell you what, I'm going to use that question when I'm on the jury next.
Because she said Lisa and Sari in the Women's Alliance. She said, and she built up Cass as well to say, really fierce competition.
Perfect.
I think get rid of you, made there was respect around that.
Make people feel good.
And then the Kirby stuff, she was like, I don't quite know, but I think maybe because we had this. And that was, to me, it all seemed... tonally seemed right. Like, I think what she thought was right, and did, as you said, didn't really hit on the ones that didn't make it, and you just kind of needed to get to 4 anyway. So I think she picked a good 4 to pick.
I think it was perfect. Yeah. So now we get to Sarah. Now this was an interesting one. So Sarah went straight for Janine's jugular, and this is like, no one's asking Janine anything at this point, really. It was, and she sort of claims it was Janine. She's like, we all talk, Janine. You were the person that broke up the Aussies. You were saying Aussie strong, but you were the one that then went to Kirby and said, Sarah's coming for you. And then Sarah was very much like, yeah, you didn't have to do it then. Why did you do it when it was 5-on-5? Not yet. You didn't have to do it then. You broke us up. And then Luke blows up and says, oh, Janine broke things down. And,
I didn't know that.
But it's interesting because Luke was the one that told Janine to go tell Kirby, if you remember.
Oh, that's
right. So Janine brought it up and said, no. Sarah and Kirby aren't that strong because Sarah just told me she's thinking about it. And Luke's like, go tell Kirby that.
Yeah.
So it was actually Luke that did it.
Great. Well, the weird thing is, this seemed like such a strange question to me because I'm kind of sitting there thinking, but Sarah, didn't you start this? You not saying Kirby's name at all, that's the start of this. So I found that very strange that, in terms of breaking up the Aussies, it's Janine's fault for telling Kirby rather than Sarah's fault for bringing up Kirby.
But the thing is, Sarah was like, but logically, we needed a majority before we eat one of our own.
Yes.
That was, she's like, that's how we win this game.
Yes.
We get a majority, then we can take out someone. And that's what she was thinking.
Yeah. But, I also feel like Janine fumbled this in a way that was like...
Yeah.
Didn't take ownership of it in a way, and not to get too blunt about it, but the idea of, but I'm here and you're not. The idea of for my game, look where I ended up based on that decision. And I think she could have done a much better job of explaining, because to say not yet, it's like, okay, Sarah, would you feel better if you were sitting here next to me? You know what I mean? I think you can very easily speak to that. I think what she needed to latch onto in that question is, and this was the kickoff point for the back half of my game.
Yes.
And this got me to here, and then it placed me in this position with these people to go here, and look where I am at the end. So I think you need to weave that story that says, this was a launch pad to get me here I am right now.
100%, man. And she didn't own it. She didn't say exactly that. I was pitching Aussie strong, but it wasn't going to get me to the end because you guys had better connections. Everyone else was doing stuff. And ultimately, I changed my tactic and I managed to create a new path. But then Sarah was like, but you doing that put yourself in a minority.
Mm-hmm.
So she's saying you didn't do that to get yourself in a better position. You did that and you put yourself in a worse position. And you're like, but ultimately... I thought it would work better. It didn't, and I had to reassess and move forward. But she just didn't own it. She just didn't own it.
Yeah, and you're talking about, I was building relationships, right? And I was working with these people to build these relationships and that kind of stuff.
And that's what Janine didn't do. Janine didn't go, I built the Sari relationship. She didn't say, she's like, I drove the wedge between Kirby and Parvati.
But also,
I did that.
And using that to be like, I got some information and knowledge, and I used it as leverage to get some. Obviously, you're saying this to the person,
yes.
But the idea of like I've used knowledge in the game to create something that wasn't there, you know. And it was interesting that Kirby was piling on as well to be like, yeah, I'm going to comfort people if you tell me them. So absolutely, that was very funny. I thought,
yeah, that Janine's getting 0 vote finalist.
Well, it's just really funny when like Kirby, who was almost the beneficiary of that information, is shitting on you
as well. Yeah. So then we got 2 more. So we got Shani. Luke, she said, Luke, what was the single moment you felt down and how did you flip it? He mentions about the parchment thing again when he realized that, oh crap, someone's got this ability, they can take my idol. And then he put that forward, and then and that's when Parvati flipped it on him and said, actually, no. And I thought that was brilliant from Parv.
Yeah, that was, and like clearly as it was, that was a moment for me to build trust with you.
Yeah.
And you put your game in my hands by giving me that information.
And honestly, and Parv used that he told me about his idol. He didn't tell Janine. He didn't tell anyone like that. I got him in a position where he told me.
When you think about it and frame it like that, it's like he willingly came to me with this information. Like, what does that say about my position in the game, you know?
Yeah. And then Kirby was basically saying, Parv, do you still love me?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, right on. But again, perfect answer of like, I genuinely thought about playing my idol, but everyone else, the plan was going in, I'm not going to stick my neck out too much. And that's kind of what happened. It's like you could see that she wanted to keep going, but the numbers weren't there. Everyone was against it, and she's not going to throw a game up. And she literally said, and then I have all these other people against me. So perfect answer. Response to that one, I think.
Kirby feels good about it because she's like, well, everyone else turned on me. Like Parv didn't pull the trigger on it. She just had to go along with it. Perfect answer again for making Kirby feel good.
Now that we've gone through all the questions, a question for Eden.
Hit me.
Of all of these questions that we had from the jury members, do you think any were in doubt and the question was a real... Because you know how some people go, my vote's still up for grabs. Like, all of these questions, I don't know if people's answers would have necessarily swayed anyone. What do you think?
No, I think maybe there was a case of Luke getting one or two others, or maybe making Tommy feel better about himself. Because again, Tommy felt like he didn't want to vote for Parv. He was like, you never wanted to work with me. You had nothing to do with me. And I think maybe there's an opportunity for Luke to be like, man, I wish we could have. I did all this stuff. But I think the way that he pushed back on Tommy, I think he lost Tommy's vote there. I just don't think there was a lot of free votes up for grabs.
And some of them just felt like personal curiosities. It's like, what was Lisa's one, Kirby's one, Tommy's one? They're all very personal things, you know?
Yeah. And so I think when you want to break it down for future players, you got to make the jury feel good about voting for you. You've got to make the jury feel good about themselves and how they've played the game. And I think Parvati did this so well. She made everyone feel like, I had to play my best to beat you guys because you guys are so good. You all did this, and this. This, like, I didn't want to get you out, but I had to. All these sort of things to make people feel good about their games.
Yeah, and I think she did go on a very individual level as well. That moment with Cass about you're a fierce competition. And I think there were just a couple of little bits like that that's probably very calculated in, like, this person's probably a maybe. I'll weave that in a bit more into this. But, you know, like Sari, it's like, I don't need to worry about my answer to Sari. That's not for Sari. It's for everyone else.
No,
you know?
Exactly. The edit, like, obviously they built Luke up as a big final boss threat, but realistically, he only got 1 vote. Now, this is Sarah's vote to Luke.
Yes.
So
very odd to me.
There's 2 things here that this is possible. One, it's a vote to make Janine come third because she's genuinely annoyed at Janine. And she wants Luke.
That is probably absolutely right.
So she wants Luke to come second and Janine to come third because she's annoyed at Janine. Yeah. Or, and this is slightly less, Parvati does not get a perfect game from this. She could have got a perfect game. Perfect game is no votes against you and get every single vote in Final Tribal Council. And she didn't do that.
But what? But surely that would be a motivation to deny someone.
No, I don't think it would be. I think the Janine thing's way more likely.
Unless well, the thing I find interesting, and just from the edit perspective, like, I feel like we saw a lot less of Parvati in the back half of the season than we did in the first half.
Yeah.
Just generally in terms of her really actively doing things, like, she was always there, but it just seemed like the focus shifted way to Luke in the last like four or so episodes.
Yeah. I think the thing with that is Parv, like, looking at it now when you know the winner, you're like, well, it's obvious.
Yeah,
like, it's
in control.
She did so much in control all the way through. But it's amazing what the edit can do to make you second guess yourself, going like, well, it can't be this. It can't be this. I honestly thought that Pav was going to lose the final immunity, get cut, and then Sari was going to end up winning in her place.
Yeah, right.
That's what I really thought was going to happen. And Pav was getting this fallen angel sort of edit.
Well, let's chat then. If Sari's in that final three, say it's Luke, Sari, and Parvati.
Yes.
Do you think there's a world where Parvati and Sari split a lot of the votes?
Well, obviously Lisa votes for Sari. Yeah?
Yes.
So now she's down to, and see, what does Sarah do? Does Sarah, because Sarah was obviously the Luke vote. Does Sarah, like, who else loves? Well, maybe
Janine, it's fair if it's Janine. Because Janine did have the choice, right? So maybe we'll go with the all-female final three.
Okay, yeah. So Janine's now in there.
Yeah.
So I think, does anyone vote for Janine? Probably not.
Luke might.
Yeah. No, but Lisa's burnt her.
Yeah, but they got through, and I feel you could understand of like, hey man, we did this together for this long.
Well, I
just feel like Parvati was such a strong player, and we just, from Sari, I do wonder though if the individual relationships with Sari were strong, because she did seem to be that glue that really pulled people together, and everyone seems to like Sari.
The other thing with Sari is that she hasn't won. Like,
that's true.
And there's this legacy of like Sari being the person that's never won and giving her the opportunity to finally win one. I think actually there could have been a bit of that, because again, Cass and Tommy, they are like, and Lisa, they're all big fans of the show. And there is a world where they go, you know what? I want to be part of the group that gave Sari her win finally.
Well, here's another question, and this came up a few times, and I was wondering about it. In a season like this specifically, how much are you voting for your winner based on this season, and how much are you looking at historically? Because it did sort of come up a lot, this historical kind of thing, and I'm like, you shouldn't really be voting on that to me. You should be this season of Survivor and how you played in this specific season.
We mentioned it before. It's the Oscars Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah.
You know what? You've played so much Survivor. Here's your win, finally.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. Same. Like, this is Boston Robin Redemption Island. We're going to put you there, get you all the way to the end, and here you go. You finally won one. I don't. Yeah, it should be on your game. And if you put anyone's game up against Pav's, then Pav beats anyone.
It feels like a big mountain to overcome, I think. One of the other things I found interesting, Pav's stat about, no votes against me, this side of the vote. How valuable do you think all those little stats are? Do they have to be in direct opposition to the other people who are in the final three or final two?
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the no votes against me necessarily is that big a claim. Unless this time, because it goes with I was the biggest target the whole time, and I think Tommy says that. Tommy's like, you were the biggest target and you got no votes. That's really impressive.
But immunity wins didn't come up at all.
Immunity wins, whatever. Strange. Well, the thing is, she didn't get votes against her because she was wearing a
I know, it's so funny because
that's why people don't want to waste their vote.
I just remember thinking that so long ago when it was like, you just got to throw something on there. You've got to get it done. Otherwise, she will just get through. And it totally happened.
This is what happened with Ferris in our season. Ferris had an idol. Everyone knew about it. And I'm just like, guys, let's just throw a couple of votes on him to make him use it and get rid of it.
Sure.
And then we get back to being normal. Everyone's on the same thing. But everyone's like, oh, no, if we do that, then he doesn't go home and he gets angry with us and all this sort of stuff. And you're like,
it's like,
that's
and then
the game, man.
He's going to be here till the end.
Yeah, exactly. So is there any other combinations? Is there any way that Luke wins this season?
I think it's hard pressed if Sari or Parvati are there, I think.
What if it's Sari, Luke,
Janine and
Janine? Because there's no clear dominated the season person there.
I think if you look at Parvati dominating the season in the way that she did, you have to look at Sari in a similar light because they were that tight pair. And I don't think Sari necessarily lived in Parvati's shadow, but I think Parvati just did a couple of extra things. She grabbed the idol, had the advantage. She just had these extra little bits. Sari didn't have those advantages and those things, and her name was on a lot.
And I think you could call that out and say, I was being targeted. I got through. I didn't have an idol. I got through. I used this sort of stuff because that would have been a really interesting final three, those three. And if Janine could have talked her game better, God, it could have been really really close.
I still think everyone had a good shake at it. I don't feel anyone who made it through to this final four played badly. I think it's just hard.
I think Sari wins in that case. I think enough people want to be part of her.
Because I just think it's really hard to have a work from the bottom person up against a was in control of the game the whole time. Like, I find that a really hard story to tell well and tell effectively. To be like, I was out of the loop for a while, but then I came good. I find that's a really difficult pitch to make.
Unless everyone is trying to get you out actively and you keep using an idol, winning immunity, like if you're like the person they can't get rid of, and you get to the end, then it's like, okay.
Yeah, then you lean on that massively. Yeah. I think to me, the most compelling things were definitely like, this is the story of my season.
Yes.
If we look back at what we did, let me take you on the journey. It takes me through step by step. And that to me felt really compelling.
Yeah, and that's it, mate. That is it. And Pav wins. And Pav says it best herself. It's who played the best game this season. And she played the best game this season. It was one of the most dominant wins. Like, she was always knew what was happening. Everyone wanted to play with her. It just shows you how good a player she is when so many people want to play with her and she manages to get out on top of every single one of those relationships.
And just we saw time and time again throughout the season, drawing information out of people when they didn't want to give it and just getting little bits of information here or there and really getting a sense of the land. It seemed like, and Survivor senses tingling when things were starting to go awry. Like it just seemed like her senses were really tuned in. Her conversation with everyone were really bang on. So yeah, I think perfect winner for this season.
Perfect winner. And do we really need to say who's spun and grun, Josh?
I think we do. That's Parvati.
It's got to be Parv. It's got to be Parv.
But what about this? What about some...
Ooh. I think it's Janine.
I think it's Sarah.
Yes. Yes, Sarah Ruffles.
I think that was the hottest jury question by far and caused the most tension, the most feather rustling.
It was
episodes.
the hottest. It was the hottest.
I'm going to go with Sarah. You going to go with Janine? Or
I'll give Janine one. You give Sarah one. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you, Tyson. Also, did you see Tyson posted a little thing about Australian Survivor?
No.
Oh, it's really funny. Just as a complete side note. But he was like, he posted something about, I decided to go do like House of Villains to spite Australian Survivor when they said I was on the show and that we'd agreed to it. And then they emailed me back saying we're going in a different direction and that casting is like a puzzle and all the pieces that fit. Spare me the analogy. This is 20 years into my reality TV career. I don't need the puzzle analogy said to me. Thank you very much, Australian Survivor. That's what Tyson said.
Great.
It's so funny. But yeah, huge season, really fun. Thank you so much for podcasting, Jay. It was really good.
Oh, it's been so much fun. And thanks to everyone who's tuned in. We had a first live show this season, which was a lot of fun. Had a lot of great comments on YouTube and stuff. So it's been a fantastic thing. We've seen the audience grow a lot, and that's really up to all you guys. Been sharing the show, talking about the show, posting, commenting, all that kind of stuff's been fantastic. And Eden and I just sort of do this in our spare time. So it means a lot for you guys to enjoy it. And it's just been a fantastic season. Like, such a really great season, seeing all these great players. And I think it really lived up to expectations.
Yeah, and the thing is, look, not every move was the optimal move, but no one took being on the bottom or being out of the loop for granted, and everyone in the top was always looking for things to do to get themselves in a better position or to change the game up. And that's what makes a really good season.
Yeah, I think so. It was great.
That's it.
Should we leave it there?
Yeah, that's it. Anything else we need to do? No, like and subscribe. We'll be back. But on the whole,
when the next might be US, might be Australia, whatever. Not too sure. We'll see what comes up.
But keep listening and keep liking and subscribing. Thanks, guys.
And see you next time.
Bye.